Folks, this is Mason Weaver, and I want to talk about this attack on John Lewis. Today is Sunday, the Sunday before inauguration of our President Donald Trump. You know, I'm now living in a town I grew up in. I left and I was gone for 45 years, only coming back for visits. In this small town, we had racial problems. We just ended the little schoolhouse for black kids when I moved here. I was called all kinds of names walking down this white community, down these streets. Had fights the first day of school. And the first 5 days of school, I had fights because they refused to call me by my name. I had teachers and bus drivers and merchants on the street call me the N-word. I moved back here, and even the people who discriminate against me, we're now working together on different things because we fought for a reason. We fought for equal opportunity, not equal management. I fought to compete in America in spite of who was against me. Well, John Lewis is now fighting in America to make sure no one opposes me. That's not his job. It's not the job of the civil rights group to manage my life. I am a free, functioning male. I will compete myself. But John Lewis and the Democratic Party and the civil rights sellouts are now trying to control the very lives of black people. So John Lewis, who was a legitimate civil rights warrior, John Lewis, who faced the tear gas and the dogs, John Lewis not a coward. But what John Lewis and Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and all the other civil rights turncoats have done was turn and work with the oppressor. They have worked with the Democratic Party oppression of black people. They have ensured more oppression, but they're being paid by the Democrats to manage the misery of black people. It is shameful. So these warriors, these brave men, are now taking care of their own kids, and they're putting together institutions to continue the demise of their own people. It is self-hating. So they're staying there, and they went to the Democrats after we won the civil rights movement. We won. The battle was over. The right to compete. I left out here and went to Vietnam. Came back without a scratch on me. And then in 1971, August 11th, at 9:06 in the morning, a white racist shipmate, a known white racist, dropped 2,800 pounds of steel on me while looking me in the eye. His hatred was so much for me that it fueled my racial hatred for years. He dropped 1.5 tons of steel on me and stood over my body watching me die. And the look on his face was so hateful and so evil that I had enough. Even though 8 white guys rescued me, even though my doctor was white, even though my physical terrorist, was white, I hated everything white in America. I was done. And I went to Berkeley and demonstrated and marched and protested. And that was a legitimate cause. I owed him that hatred. It was legitimate. I could not live where I wanted to live because of the color of my skin. And right now, where I live now, 45 years later, I'm living in a neighborhood I could have never lived in when I was here then. In 1968, this whole side of the freeway was for white people only. That's what we were fighting for. If I had the cash and the money, I should live where I want to live. John Lewis is fighting to make these white folks like me out here. I don't care about that. I'm a citizen now. I'm a taxpayer now. I'm a donor to political campaigns now. I control the police. They don't abuse me. And John Lewis and people like him, understand now, in Atlanta, his district is one of the poorest districts in Atlanta. And they're still complaining about police brutality, and John Lewis has been in charge. They're still complaining about no jobs, and John Lewis has been in charge. They're still complaining about teen birth rates and gang activity and unproductive schools in a district John Lewis is presiding over. He is presiding over misery and failure and hatred. He is self-hating. He hates black people. How can you work for an organization, a Democratic Party, that has enslaved black people, the party of the black codes, the party that went to war, civil war, to keep black folks in slavery? How can you support a party that passed the welfare bills that kept black folks in poverty? How can you pass every congressional district controlled by liberal Democrats where black folks live, black folks are miserable, and he's still there preaching their garbage? That is self-hating. But we don't care anymore, folks. This Trump thing is over. It's over. The game is over. We do not care what singers won't come and sing at the national inauguration. We don't care what black folks won't show up. We don't care what black leaders won't give them respect. We don't care. We know who you are. We know you will never be satisfied. You are the party of slavery. You're the party of management. You're the party of institutionalized racism. You are the party of hatred. And we are done with you, black folks, white folks. Folks doing this campaign for Trump, I traveled 10,000 miles on my own money. I went to Colorado. I went to Birmingham. I went to Florida, Cleveland. And everywhere I went, on planes and in my car, everywhere I've gone, people, black folks and poor folks and rich folks and white folks, all were saying, we have had enough. And you members of the press will continue to spread this garbage and this hatred. We don't care. You understand? We don't care. We don't care if you like us. We don't care if you call us names. We don't care if you put signatures on our face on a coon like it did Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey don't care. We do not care, folks. And when you get that idea that John Lewis does not speak for anyone but John Lewis and his Democratic handlers, when you get the idea that Al Sharpton is a mute, when you get the notion that President Obama has no message we want to hear, when you get in your mind that no one pays attention to the New York Times, no one pays attention to the LA Times, no one cares. When you get that in your mind, you realize that we recognize who you are. We are tired of you. We, the American people, are tired of you. You're not for us. You're for managing us. You enjoy poverty. You're like fungus. You grow best in the darkness. And we're children of the light. And you're no longer going to separate us by our racial differences, by our sexual differences. You're not going to separate us. You're no longer going to be able to stand before us and walk on our flag. You've had enough of it. You're not going to tell me as a black man that I cannot communicate to a white man. You know, I put up a picture on Facebook a little while ago of a burning house. The notion of health care. The burning house. They're saying, what are you going to replace it with? You see, I'm old enough. See this gray hair, folks? I'm old enough to remember. The affirmative action came out. And they said, okay, you're going to end affirmative action. What are you going to replace it with? Same language today. Don't end it. Mend it. The same language today. What you're saying is we must have a government program to handle every problem of our lives. We must have a government program. So come on now, what's the problem? What government program are you going to replace welfare with? What government program are you going to replace public education with? So what program are you going to replace healthcare with? It's a concept to get us twisted and thinking we must please your concept. If I had a tumor and I'm going to the doctor to get it removed, and I'm going to ask, doctor, what are you going to replace it with? If my home is on fire, will you come to me and say, you cannot put that fire out until you tell us what you're going to replace it with? Give me the building plans. That's what they're saying. They want us to arguing with ourselves, folks. But government-assisted health care is dangerous and it's counterproductive. And we want to end it for that reason. We do not need a government replacement for health care. I will take my health care money and I will go to the health care providers and I will negotiate a price. If I don't like it, I should be able to go across state lines somewhere else. Should be free. You know, we are freedom-loving people. We are free by our Constitution. So I ask you folks something. If we're free, can you name one thing as a free person that you do today that does not include your government in a fee, tax, permission, authority, something, anything you do today that does not provide or require your government to give you their permission? You are not free. You are just managed. But this election was a revolution. This election was a movement. We are no longer persuaded by the experts and the smart folks. We're persuaded. Donald Trump, you know, I don't know for a fact, I only met him once. Donald Trump, apparently, this multi-billionaire, been successful all of his life, had more billions coming his way down the pipeline. He sacrificed all that. He lost money on that. Countries stopped doing business with him. Saudi Arabia canceled contracts. Because I think Donald Trump looked at his children and looked at his grandchildren and said, what am I going to leave them? What profits a man to conquer the whole world and lose his soul? He saw Hillary Clinton and the future for the Supreme Court. He saw the Democratic Party controlling the judges. We've seen the active judges around the country. We've seen them cancel every vote. 33 times same-sex marriage was on the ballot. And 33 times it was voted down by the people. But Democrats went to the judges. And now we have same-sex marriage against the will of the people. Obamacare. Folks, let me tell you what kind of government we have. We have the kind of government where the people put pressure on government to change, good or bad. The government must respond to the people. So here you have the people putting pressure on England to change. The result was a Revolutionary War. Then you have the people putting pressure on the government to change slavery. The people pushed the government. We had a civil war. Then you had the people putting pressure on government for the drinking laws. We had prohibition, good or bad. The people put pressure on government to end the war in Vietnam. And the people demands had to happen. So you have the people putting pressure on government for civil rights. And the government had to back up and change their colors. Democrats changed their voice, then changed their idea. So where was the people? Where was the people putting pressure on the government to change and manage health care? The Democrats, did it under cover of darkness, Christmas Eve, midnight. They're sneaky and they're dark. The people never demanded it, but the people stood up every election except the presidential after that and voted those clowns out of office. The people have spoken up. Finally, we got the great liar in chief, can't run anymore, and the people put up a candidate that no one wanted. No one wanted Donald Trump. No procrastinator, no policymaker, no congressman, no judge, no newspaper. No one wanted him except the people. And doggone it, we got him. And we do not care if you don't like it. So understand, John Lewis, your voice is hollow. Your voice is empty. Your voice has no influence. We, the people, have spoken. You take your old, crap-it behind home and sit and contemplate the greatness you could have had. Had you continued with your philosophy of civil rights, and then instead of changing to the philosophy of civil management. We do not want you to manage our business. We're going to remember you in history. We're going to remember you what you did on the March on Washington. We're going to remember what you did at the bridge. Great story, dude. But what you're trying to do now is going to tarnish your legacy because you fail to see that wide range support around you by the Democratic and Liberal parties is that thin. It is of no consequences. You and the March on Washington led by Al Sharpton and the promises and the great speeches given by our good friend, Jesse Jackson, is gone nowhere. You're old, tired dinosaurs, and we the people, Americans, are no longer separated by our differences. We're no longer separated by rich and poor and black and white. We're no longer following your lead and looking at each other by big business and government. We're no longer playing that game with you. We have awoken. And we're now separated by philosophy. Are you pro-life or pro-choice? You for big taxes or low taxes? You want private schools or public schools? We don't look at color. We now look at issues. And that means you are useless. Your money's going to dry up. We're going to replace you in Congress. We're going to replace the philosophy you have lived on the last few decades. Sorry. Thank you for your service. I also demonstrated. I marched in Oakland. I ate tear gas at Berkeley. I understand the struggle that you and I both went through was great. I joined the Black Panther Party because at the time, they had a legitimate gripe. They were supporting the police to get the heck off our back. And they were on our back. But once we won the right to organize and vote, doggone it, Oakland became a black-controlled city. So the problems now in Oakland, the problems now in Detroit, the problems now in Chicago, the problems in Atlanta where you live, it's our problem, boy. What's wrong with you? Are you a grown man, Mr. Lewis, or are you a boy? Because you're saying white folks have to respond to every problem in the black community. You're saying there are no problems in the black community that white people should not be involved in. You're saying that we're not in charge. It's an insult. Every time you open your mouth up, it is an insult. You're saying that we cannot function as individual family members. We cannot function as a society. We must come together and beg white folks to feed us, to clothe us, and educate us. That's what the slave master did. And he hired Negroes like you and called them slave managers and overseers. He hired you to keep those other Negroes in control. And people like you educated the Negroes to pick that cotton properly, to store that cotton properly, and continue to support Master even after he died to support his children. You're supporting a program on Social Security. You're supporting this program, John Lewis, that says that you're going to take my money as I work and you're going to put it in the bank and take interest until I retire, and then you give me back what you want if I act right, if I have not made too much money based on your criteria, and you will give me money until I die and give my wife pennies of my money, and it goes back to give out to people who live the longest, the white female. Average black man dies 5 years after retirement. And that money goes to support the white female who lives the longest. So you're supporting another plantation system where the black man's worth, his labor, goes to support the master's wife. And you're proud of that. John Lewis, I'm embarrassed. I have no hope of redeeming you. I have no hope of changing your mind. I have no hope of bringing you back to reality. You have sold out. On purpose, eyes wide open. You know what you're doing, and you know why you're doing it. Take care of your business, but we are going to ignore you. And because your actions against our president, because your actions against our leadership, not only are we going to ignore you, we're going to forget you. When we take over the school system, start teaching our kids the real history, you're going to have a dark spot on your name. We take over our schools, start teaching our children how to live in America, start teaching the benefits of democracy, the benefits of being free, you're going to have a footnote, buddy. So I'm glad at 23 and 24 you were able to face those police dogs. It was a noble cause, brother. But you gave up the battle once we had won. You actually gave up the battle once we have won. The slave master's children came to you and said, "Okay, boy, I tell you what, we're gonna let you be congressman, city council first." But they were Democrats. How can you sit down with the party that has destroyed your people since we have been here? How can you stand there and play those political games and watch everyone around you prosper, every group around you prosper, and your constituents are dead broke, mentally, spiritually, politically, dead broke? Mr. Lewis, you cannot name me one ghetto in America that you can brag about. But every ghetto in America is controlled by your party. What can you brag about in LA, Compton, and Watts? What can you brag about in East St. Louis? What can you brag about in Florida, in Miami area? Name me a Democrat-controlled ghetto, which is every one of them, that you can brag about. So you, the Congressional Black Caucus members, how dare you even open your mouth? How dare you even show your face in public? You, the Black Congressional Caucus of John Lewis, controlling every black inner city neighborhood. And all you've grown is gangs and drug dealers. But I know, see, as a political science major, I understand. The poorer black people are, the more they vote for you. The worse the schools are, the more they vote for you. The more they are in dispute with the man, the stronger you and the man control them. I understand your motivation is self-preservation. I got it. But we are walking up, buddy. We're tired of garbage. We're tired of foolishness. We're going to move this country forward. This time, we're going to keep control. And the reason why all you Democrats are running and spouting off and protesting and lamentating yourself and whining and moaning, the reason why you're so upset, the same reason you was upset in the 1860s. Republicans took away your slaves. You have not been this upset since the last time Republicans took away your slaves. I wrote the book, It's Okay to Leave the Plantation, out of frustration when I finally came out of that Berkeley radicalism. You know, I still speak Swahili. I've studied black history. I've talked to the most radical people in this country back when I was a kid. But once we won the legal rights to participate in the American dream, I got up and took my disabled behind out and I competed. I owned 12 businesses, trying to find out how to run a business because no one taught me how to run a business. I learned by mistakes. But once I got there, buddy, I turned to America and said, I'm going to get mine. And when I went to the Department of Energy as an intern, there were 2,500 applications for 3 jobs. Guess what? I had to beat somebody. No one wanted me to have that job. No one. They all wanted it for themselves. I was the first black person to win that position. I had to beat somebody. And it wasn't because of my color. It could have been. It wasn't because of my gender. It could have been. It wasn't because of my education. It could have been. But no matter what it was, somebody wasn't going to like me getting that job. So, John Lewis, I don't care if you don't think he is a legitimate president, because I don't think you're a legitimate civil rights leader. John Lewis, I do not think you are a legitimate civil rights leader, because you're leading folks back onto the plantation. I wrote the book, It's Okay to Leave the Plantation, because I was frustrated with the garbage I was hearing from you. I kept wondering, okay, wow, when are we going to declare victory? When are we going to declare that we have won the right to go out and educate our children and compete? I saw the black-owned businesses disappear, not increase. I saw the black private schools disappear, not increase. I saw the black men turn away from their manhood to protect the community. I saw under your leadership nationwide the notion that black people had to be managed. You are an embarrassment. You represent a failed philosophy that black people have to be managed. You are self-hating. You hate the idea of being black. You hate the idea of coming from poverty. You hate yourself and you hate me. I no longer care. So, Friday, January 20th, 2017, we're going to put a flag in the sand. Bam! It's going to wave proudly. It's going to say to you, you're no longer going to have me treat anyone else in America differently. You're no longer going to let me look at myself differently. I'm going to raise my grandkids to take their rightful place in America. We're going to build up America, and they, my granddaughters, are going to, and my grandson, are going to be successful or fail based on how much they contribute to the great American society. We know why you're for illegal aliens, because there's more voters for you. We know they're going to take jobs from black folks. We know the crime rate in the black community is going to go up. We know schools are going to be less productive. We know that, and you know that. But you'll get more votes. You know, we got a name for that in the black community. It's not a coon, buddy. It's a sellout. John Lewis, stop. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and stop. You've stolen enough on this old civil rights legacy that you have. You've lived enough off of it. It is time, brother, for a new civil rights movement. You want to be a great man instead of a good man? You want to show some real wisdom instead of complacency? Stand up in Congress and proclaim the new civil rights movement. The American people are back. And really, folks, we have to stand up and ignore this. Now, I know the news want to print this stuff because it's good news, copy, people can talk about it and what they got. But around here, we know, we read this stuff, we turn off Fox News when they put these fools on because we don't want to being lied to. We know Obama's going to stir up trouble. We know that, but I want you to relax. I'm talking to you and my followers out here. I want you to relax. We have gotten this. They have no power, none. They have no influence, none. They have nothing but crying and whining. Friday, we're going to put that banner in the sand, and we're going to take back our country. And the whole world sees it now. The whole world is responding to Donald Trump now. It's time for us to make sure that we respond. Don't fear for the next election. Don't fear for what's going to happen in 2020. Don't fear for the congressional election. They're going to tell you to fear it. Don't fear it, folks, because the best antidote is success. You let these jobs come in. Let these buildings be built up. Let these factories start building. You let the American industry come back and people can see it with their eyes. They can see success. And no matter what rhetoric is happening, we're going to vote. We did that this election cycle. Nobody wanted Trump except us. Now it's time to govern. So I'm going to leave it now. It's time for me to get out here and take care of my business. And I see all your comments here, and I appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook, Mason Weaver, or Klein Say Mason, my real page. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me most any place. My email is there. My books are out. Amazon.com, Mason Weaver, Tribalism, It's Okay, It's Plantation. I love you. I support you. I thought I was going to retire out here. When I moved back to my little small town, I thought I was going to retire. But you folks have gotten me out of retirement. Stop doing that. I want to sit back. I've trained folks all over this country. They're out here doing some great things. We have this. Folks, I'm gonna start videotaping these conversations I'm having in the hood with these gang members. They can't wait. They can't wait for these jobs to come near them. They're not going to go to China to work. Folks, all you're hearing now from the left is the last gasping, flinging breath of a dying dinosaur. It is over. God bless America. God bless you. Stay right or be left. Eternity is a long time to be wrong. God bless you, and I'll see you again soon.